Hi, everyone. It's Thursday. I was hoping we wouldn't get that snow, that it would all be a big mistake, and that we could go to school today, but I guess not. So here I am, still in my kitchen. And okay, yesterday I had a lot of technical problems with my Chromebook. So I don't know what showed up on YouTube. I don't think I posted anything. So we're going to start over. Okay, I'm going to finish this book today. We're going to try this again. Phoebe the Spy. I'm going to post it on Dojo. Okay. And then we'll start our new book as well. Okay. So let's finish this. This is the exciting conclusion of Phoebe the Spy. All right. So Mr. Hickey brought some June peas, okay, which I guess is very exciting. I love peas, but not everybody does. And apparently George Washington loved them as well. So me and George liked our peas. All right. So she's really worried about him sitting in front of that window, okay? So by the time dinner time arrived, she was almost sick with fear. She was in the kitchen with Pompey, getting ready to serve the plates, when a voice behind her made her jump. It was Hickey. "I've come for my peas," he said softly. "Oh, Mr. Hickey, sir," she said, "you gave me such a start. She stopped and looked at him, even more startled. He looked ill, frightened. She couldn't tell which. "Which is my plate and which is General Washington's," he said. "It wouldn't do for him to have more than me." He spoke quickly without smiling this time. "Never heard of such carryings on over a pile of peas," Phoebe said. "This is the General's plate and this is yours." She turned away to fill Pompey's salt cellar and turned back just in time to see Hickey's hand move quickly away from General Washington's plate and slide into his pocket. Something winked for a second in the light, something shiny like glass. "What are you doing to General Washington's plate?" she said. "I told you yours is here." She picked up the plate. Was it her imagination, or was there something grainy like sugar on the peas? Phoebe looked more closely, but as she looked, whatever it was seemed to have disappeared. An instant later, she wasn't sure. Had she seen anything at all? She thought of the window again and forgot about the peas. She had to serve General Washington. All right, here's Hickey coming to check on his peas. And here she is looking at him. Kind of funny, right? She's giving him kind of the side eye there. Leaving Hickey standing in the kitchen, Phoebe nervously entered the dining room, Pompey following with the salt. As she walked toward the general, Phoebe looked at every face around the table. Some of the guests were talking, some merely smiling. None seemed nervous or frightened. And then she noticed the empty chair. Who was missing? But even as she asked herself the question, she knew it was Mr. Green. Was he outside the house with a gun, waiting? General Washington was sitting by the window as she had feared. He sat back easily in his chair, listening to something General Gates was saying. The window was open. As she went past, Phoebe looked outside anxiously. There was not a sound, not a shadow, not a movement. The green grass was smooth and unruffled. Even the leaves in the trees beyond were still. "Well, Phoebe," General Washington exclaimed as she stopped beside his chair. "June peas! How did you get them so early in the season?" "Well, it wasn't me, sir," replied Phoebe, looking past him out the window. "It was your Mr. Hickey brought them in fresh today. He says they're your favorite." There's George Washington and General Gates, two very important people. "And mine as well," said General Gates. "Where is Mr. Thomas Hickey? I want to thank him." Phoebe started to put the plate down in front of General Washington. Then, in a flash, it came to her who she was looking for. Mr. Green was not hiding outside the window to shoot at the general. The person who was trying to kill him was here in the kitchen. Phoebe stood like a stone, the plate still in her hands. She saw Hickey again, Thomas Hickey, laughing and teasing, bringing her candy and ribbons and seed for her chickens, and then bringing June peas for the general and sprinkling them with poison. Tea was for Thomas, member of General Washington's bodyguard. Still holding the plate, she whirled around. Pompey was waiting behind her. "Run," she screamed. "Run! Get my father!" Everyone stopped talking. Pompey looked at her in amazement. Your father?" he stammered. "Sam Francis at the Queen's Head. Go!" And she stamped her foot. Pompey had never heard Phoebe sound like that before. He dropped the salt cellar and ran through the kitchen door. Everyone in the dining room sat frozen. All eyes were on Phoebe. "General Washington," she cried, "Mr. Hickey has put poison in your dinner. I saw him." There was a gasp from the table. Oh boy. "What jest is this?" roared General Gates, getting up from his place and reaching for the plate. But before he could take it from her, Phoebe ran to the open window and threw the whole plate out into the yard. Now the dining room was in an uproar. Chairs overturned, wine spilled as the men jumped to their feet in confusion. Some ran toward the window where Phoebe was standing as if they feared she might try to escape. Others started for the kitchen. Some ran to surround General Washington. No one knew what to do. It was General Gates who first noticed the chickens in the yard. "Look!" he shouted, pointing out the window. 3 of Phoebe's chickens had come to peck at the peas she had thrown outside. 2 had already fallen dead. The third was still moving its wings, but as they watched, it too grew still. The poison meant for General Washington had killed the chickens instead. "Get Hickey!" bellowed General Gates, and members of the bodyguard rushed to obey. Minutes later, Thomas Hickey was dragged in from the yard, his face white with terror. He had not been able to escape. Minutes after that, Sam Francis burst into the room. Phoebe was still standing by the window, shaking. He ran to her and held her tightly. Phoebe clung to him, burying her face in his shoulder. All right. Here are those poor chickens that ate the poison peas. "Well done, daughter," Samuel Francis said quietly. After the excitement had died down and Hickey had been taken away, General Washington came to speak to Phoebe and her father. "It's nice to know people whom I can trust," he said simply. "Thank you." General Washington went on to lead the American army to victory, and the United States was born. So freedom did come to some Americans, but not all. In 1783, when the war was won, General Washington chose to give his victory party at Francis's Queen's Head Tavern. And there he said goodbye to the leaders of the army, and when he became the first president of the United States, he invited Sam Francis to become his official steward. Francis held that job until 1796. Thomas Hickey was tried and convicted of trying to kill George Washington. 7 days later, he was hanged. As was usual in those days, everyone turned out to watch. No one knows whether Phoebe was there. No one knows what happened to Phoebe after that. But we do know that she was a good spy. All right. Now, I'm going to read postscript from the author. Okay, this is like a PS. This is pretty cool. I always read it because I love this. The story of Phoebe Francis is essentially historically accurate. Sam Francis did indeed allow his restaurant to serve as a meeting place for the patriots. He was so steadfast in his loyalty to the revolutionary cause that after the war ended, he was voted the sum of $200 by Congress as a reward. A lot of money back then. Soon after that, Francis changed the names of the Queen's Head to the name by which it is still known today, Francis Tavern. This is the cool part. The tavern is still standing at the corner of Broad and Pearl Streets in New York City. Part of it is a museum, but the bottom floor still operates as a restaurant. It looks very much as it did when Samuel Francis and his family lived there, except that it no longer has its red tiled roof. So, boys and girls, next time I go to New York City, I am going to go to Francis Tavern. How cool is that it's still around? I love that. All right. A little bit of history for us. I love this book. I read it every year and I never, ever get tired of it. Ever. All right. So, we will start a new novel. Hopefully, I will see you guys in person tomorrow. And I'm going to post this video first and then maybe a hint of what we're going to read next. Okay? All right, boys and girls. So my video worked all the way through. I think it's going to work out. I hopefully will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.